Kansas City, your Chiefs are 2-0 for just the second time since 2005. Welcome to the Outsiders Podcast. Clint, Switzer, and Noah Groniger joining you here. And I'll tell you what, big win out at Arrowhead Stadium for the Chiefs on Sunday, 17-16 over the Cowboys. We're going to be breaking down that win and also previewing the big game against the Philadelphia Eagles coming up on Thursday. Quick turnaround for the Chiefs, only 3 days rest. And our guest today is going to be Brad Gagnon. He is the blogger, NFC East blogger for Bleacher Report. I'm going to be talking about all things NFC East. Chiefs got 3 games against the East. 1 down, 1-0 against the East, 2-0 in the season. Know how you feel about this performance. Kansas City, to me, made somewhat of a statement inside Arrowhead Stadium on Sunday.
That they did. I didn't really believe in this defense, but I'm going to have to eat crow on that one. I was wrong. This defense really showed up against the Cowboys. Brandon Flowers had somewhat of a rough game, but didn't get killed too bad with 200 yards or something like that. So Des Bryant's a top 5 receiver. We shut down DeMarco Murray. We pretty much shut down Jason Witten. I was very impressed with the defense, and we did make a statement beating the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, you're talking about, and also if you're talking about concerns, the Chiefs' offense, I think, has some concerns. Offensive line has been a problem thus far. Can't really get the running game going. I think Alex Smith has been efficient. He had 223 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's got 4 touchdowns, no picks for the season. You're going to take that. He's an efficient player. You're going to hear that word a lot when we talk about him. I think there's some throws that he maybe can't make. He doesn't have the big, strong arm to get balls down the field like Tony Romo was doing to Des Bryant. But for what this offense is, I think it has an opportunity to get better as the season progresses.
Yeah, I think it does, especially with the offensive line. I think a lot of guys on that line are still developing. Obviously, Eric Fisher. I think even Asamoah, Hudson, and Allen are still developing. And Stevenson's going to have to probably play a big role if Brandon Albert's going to go down every single game clutching a limb.
No, that guy is down clutching a limb and absolutely on the on the doorstep of death every single game of his career. And you think this is it. He's gone to the locker room, and he will never return. But then you look up, the next series, there's Brandon Albert, 76, has checked back into the game. And so you just got to hope that the line stays healthy because the depth is an issue. And right now the starters are not dominating. They're not dominant, and we'll keep our eye on Eric Fisher, the first overall pick. But a big win out of the gate. The Chiefs are 2-0. This is not something we've seen around this town, since 2010, and before that since 2005. It's so important to get momentum out of the starting gates in this league. How big is it right now that we sit at 2-0, looking ahead to 2 more games against the NFC East?
It's really big. You got the Colts at 1-1. You've got the Ravens at 1-1. The Bengals and Steelers play tonight. So we need to keep winning and keep this streak up so we can stay in the wild card playoff hunt.
The division's over. The Denver Broncos are the AFC West champs. They are,
unless Peyton Manning gets injured, which it's doubtful, but Ryan Clady does have a Liz Frank injury. They're big left tackles, so possibly they could start seeing more of a rush.
They look unbelievable right now. They're on another level. Doesn't mean they're going to win the Super Bowl. They will win the division unless a miracle happens. So the Chiefs are going to have to look. If they're going to get into the playoffs, it's going to have to be a wild card spot. And I think this team, through 2 games, maybe has shown me that they can get in the argument at least. Whereas before I had them at a 7-9, 8-8 type team. Maybe they make the jump. Maybe it's a 9-7, 10-6 type team, if all falls well for this team.
Yeah, the Broncos, I know it's only 2 weeks, but they look like the cream of the crop of the entire NFL. I mean, going back to the dynasties of the Dallas Cowboys, the Steelers, they look like one of those teams, the 49ers, and they look scary right now, but it's only 2 weeks.
We've got a quick turnaround. The Chiefs are getting ready to go to Philadelphia, a team who has scored 30 points or more in their first 2 games. Michael Vick slinging it around. Chip Kelly's got that offense revamped. They look really solid. Defense has been shaky. They lose to the Chargers in a last-second field goal this weekend. Who does this matchup favor more? Because Andy Reid, he's coached in Philadelphia all those years, but the Chiefs have to go on the road during this quick week. Who does this matchup favor?
I think it favors Chip Kelly because that's a hard offense to prepare for on a short week unless they've done some study prior to this. It's going to be tough to keep up with that offense and all the kind of different formations that they're going to throw at you. And they've scored, like you said, 30 points or more the past 2 weeks. Luckily, we have a very good defense. If they don't hold them to under 30, we are going to lose this game.
I don't think this offense of the Chiefs is capable of winning a game if their defense is going to give up 30 points. I just don't think that's possible right now. But we're going to find out. We're actually going to go ahead and bring on our guest, Brad Gagnon. He is the NFC East blogger for Bleacher Report, and we're going to talk about all things Cowboys and preview the Eagles. All right, and we are still talking Chiefs-Cowboys and getting ready to preview Chiefs-Eagles coming up here on a short week with Brad Gagnon. He is the blogger for Bleacher Report for the NFC East. Brad, how you doing, man? The NFC East, a lot of crazy things already happened through 2 weeks. What do you make of all this so far, my man?
First of all, I'm great. Thanks for having me. But, it hasn't been a good start for any of the four teams, really. I mean, Philadelphia obviously played great against Washington in their opener, and now obviously that's the team the Chiefs have to worry about right now. But, they really had some lapses on defense, some bad lapses on defense against the San Diego Chargers on Sunday, another team obviously Kansas City is very familiar with. And then, of course, Dallas looked great in its opener as well, but then came back to earth a little bit with sort of a tough performance against the Chiefs at Arrowhead on Sunday. So as far as those two teams go, they're in better shape than obviously Washington and the Giants, who are 0-2 apiece right now. But Kansas City could easily make it 2 for 2 against the NFC East, because that entire division is yet to win a single game against anyone not in the division thus far this season.
What do you make of this Cowboys team so far? They turned the ball over 6 times in the opener against the New York Giants, their rival. They come into Kansas City, 2 costly turnovers that really wound up costing them the game. What do you make of the Cowboys so far? And also kind of grade the Chiefs' performance in their first home game under the guise of Andy Reid.
I fully expected, Kansas City to put up a fight and to potentially even beat the Cowboys as they did. Vegas did too. They were a 3-point favorite as far as the line goes. And, I think I'm sure you would agree that the Chiefs are a better team than 2-14, probably a lot better. Obviously, the new coaching staff is a factor there. Obviously, a brand new right tackle, brand new quarterback are factors, and the return to health of some key players is obviously big too. But I mean, still, we're looking at a team that sent 6 guys to the Pro Bowl last season, despite winning only 2 games, and so I don't think Dallas was overlooking them. They just couldn't play up to their level. It was obviously a back and forth game and a very close and competitive game, and ultimately the Cowboys came up short, and that's a big win for Kansas City, because it really does go to show that they can be right there with teams like Dallas, who are probably supposed to be a playoff team this season. I mean, the Cowboys have a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. Really not a lot of weak spots on either side for them. You got Des Bryant, one of the best receivers in the game, who started hot, but Kansas City was able to sort of get a handle on at some point in time before he was able to be a game changer. And same goes for Romo, DeMarco Murray. Same goes for that offensive line. Teron Smith is a fantastic young left tackle. And then on defense, all 3 layers. Anthony Spencer and DeMarcus Ware up front are great. Bruce Carter and Sean Lee are great in the middle. And then Brandon Carr and Morris Claiborne, and even Barry Church, really, 3 above average star caliber defensive backs. So I mean, that's a very good team. Pick them in and out, and the Chiefs were able to defeat them. It was a close game at home, which was expected to be, but they were able to get the victory, and that's all that matters right now. And as far as the Chiefs go, what I make of this Chiefs team, it's a team that could, like I said, beat Philly this week, and did beat Dallas this past week, and that's huge. And I think that Andy Reid's always liked Alex Smith. There was that report that he was interested in trading for him when he was with Philadelphia on more than one occasion. And as long as you have Jamal Charles in the backfield and Dwayne Bowe as a receiver, you're in pretty good shape. But I think the defense has really been carrying them thus far this season, and they once again stepped up with a big performance. You mentioned 2 takeaways, and limited DeMarco Murray to only 25 yards on 12 carries, which was, I think, big too, because they took away Dallas's balance. And if you take away that balance, it obviously changes everything, and that's when you have a chance to pounce on them with the pass rush. They had 6 sacks in that first week and had another decent performance here.
You mentioned being impressed with the Cowboys' offensive line and the running back DeMarco Murray, but they haven't got the running game going the first 2 weeks. Is that just lack of feeding DeMarco Murray the rock enough, or is there a problem with that run game?
I think it's too early to tell if it's a problem or if it's just a lack of activity. I really thought they would be getting him more involved this season than that entire running game, because obviously Jason Garrett had a reputation for being a little bit pass happy, which of course is something Andy Reid also dealt with in Philadelphia, and a question that he might have been facing in Kansas City. I don't think that's been a big issue, although there was a little bit unbalanced against Dallas. As far as the balance goes, I think that they got into a situation against the Giants where Murray was still impactful in that game. He had a pretty solid game, but they kind of relied on Romo as the game kind of went on, which is what a team like Dallas typically does. A team like the Giants, most of the NFC East, as a matter of fact, is sort of a pass-heavy situation, whereas Washington being the exception. And now I guess the Eagles are going to be different going forward than the Chip Kelly's offense, but we're used to a pass-happy offense to Philly too. So really, I mean, that's where they lean, and that's where they lean is over the course of this game. I would have liked to see a little bit more, but it just wasn't working. I mean, Lance Dunbar obviously had the fumble on his pretty decent gain, and then of course, Murray only had, like I said, just over 2 yards per carry on 12 attempts. At some point, you need to just give up when it's just not, you're not producing in the running game. And so, kudos to the Chiefs front seven. They did a very good job against him in those limited carries, and were able to contain that running game and force Romo to make throws. And in the first half, Romo was for the most part making those throws, but down the stretch he wasn't able to, and they weren't able to convert. And Dan Bailey had to settle for a 30-yard field goal early in the third quarter, and then they were lucky just to nail that 53-yarder later on. So when you're not able to execute inside your the other team's 50-yard line, and you settle for 3 field goals and only the single touchdown to Des Bryant in the first quarter, you're not usually going to win. And so really, I think that's why the story of Sunday, as far as the Kansas City Chiefs and Dallas Cowboys go, was really the performance again from that defense. Like I said, recovering a pair of fumbles. They didn't get a pick, but a couple fumble recoveries was big. Brandon Flowers so active as a cornerback, and obviously Justin Houston didn't have any sacks this time around, but was again a big factor. And so it's just a great D, and I think they don't get enough credit for being as good as they are. And I think we're going to start noticing them if they continue to have these performances. And now the test is as big as can be against the Eagles.
Yeah, the Chiefs keeping it in the NFC East for a second time in as many weeks as they head to Philadelphia. Quick turnaround for both teams. Who do you think this matchup favors more, considering Andy Reid comes from Philadelphia, but the Eagles are at home playing on this short week? How do you see this matchup playing out?
Yeah, I don't see the Andy Reid factor being big. I see it being an intriguing storyline and a fun storyline, but I don't think you see it being big as far as the final outcome goes. I just think this team has changed too much. It's not as though Andy Reid has any sort of inside track on an offense that has completely been retooled under Chip Kelly. He does know Michael Vick very well, obviously, and he knows Deshaun Jackson and LaShawn McCoy and sort of the key personnel, guys as far as the personnel goes on the offense, but he doesn't know the schemes, he doesn't know the offensive play calling, he doesn't know the system, anything like that, so that's not a big factor. And of course the defense has completely transformed itself under Billy Davis as well. They're now more of a 3-4 attack, with Brandon Graham has dropped back along with Trent Cole. Connor Barwin's come in, he wasn't on the team last year either. Isaac Sopuaga wasn't on the team, they dropped Benny Logan, so it's very different than it was when obviously Andy Reid was running things in Philadelphia for 13 years. But so I don't think that'll be a big factor, but it's a fun story. I think the big factor, you're right, you mentioned, is that turnaround. And I think the Chiefs are a young enough team and riding enough momentum, and it's early enough in the season that turning around from a Sunday to a Thursday and only having to travel from Kansas City to Philadelphia, which isn't necessarily a back-breaking flight, won't probably hurt them very much. In fact, as far as the momentum they're building, it could even be advantageous to get back out on the field quickly, see if you can start the season 3-0 and take a new team by surprise. The last thing you want to do is give Chip Kelly, and who's by all indications an offensive genius, a chance to sort of look at even more tape and figure out how to potentially solve a defense that's been thus far in the season puzzling offensive coordinators, at least as far as Jacksonville and Dallas goes. So I think the key for them will be to essentially turn around quick and hit the Eagles real fast and aggressively, and we'll see if that pays off. I do think Philly has an advantage being at home on 3 days rest. That's always an advantage for the home team on these Thursday night games, but it's probably minimalized by the factors I just mentioned.
The Eagles have put up 30 or more points the last 2 weeks. If they do that again this Thursday night, do you think the Chiefs will be able to keep up with them?
I think the Chiefs need to keep them under 30. I think that has to be the goal for sure. I mean, I think it's going to be hard for Kansas City. They put up 28 in the opener, but that was Jacksonville, who right now isn't even an NFL caliber opponent. And then, they put up 17. But really, the Dallas defense did a pretty good job with Kansas City for the majority of that game. And like I said, it was more about that Kansas City D. So, I mean, as much as the Philly D really, really did struggle against San Diego, giving up, 33 points, I still have a feeling that if Philly gets to 30 for the third straight week, they're probably beating the Chiefs on Thursday night. I think that Kansas City D with Tom Bowley and Justin Houston up front, and Barry and Flowers in the defensive backfield. Those guys need to step it up and maybe make a turnover or two, make a play on Michael Vick, which is very possible. It's not as though this team has been void of turnovers and mistakes on offense thus far this season. So I think the Chiefs need to make some plays on defense, and I think they might. I think they have a good chance to win this game, but if they do win it, they're winning it, 23-20, 24-21, it's something in that range, in my opinion, or even lesser, 17-16, like we had at Arrowhead on Sunday. I think if Philly gets close to 30, I think the Chiefs are probably in trouble.
Absolutely. Well, Brad, I tell you what, thanks so much for joining us. Everybody go follow Brad at Brad, Gagnon on Twitter. Great stuff. Brad, they said you're one of the top 10 people, Twitter people for Cowboys fans to follow. Got to be a badge of honor for you to hear that from Google.
I didn't know that. I hadn't heard that, but I much appreciate that. Yeah, for sure. Give me a follow, and I'm a big Cowboys guy. I have all 4 teams in the division I cover pretty closely, so appreciate any follows I get and any mentions I get.
Well, we'll definitely be in touch. The Chiefs have got 2 more games against the East after this, so we'll definitely be in touch and definitely be following you. Brad, we appreciate it so much for joining us here on the Outsiders Podcast, and we'll talk again soon, my man.
Anytime. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Thanks a lot, Brad, for joining us. All things NFC East, and the Chiefs are going to get their fill of the NFC East as they get ready to play the Philadelphia Eagles. It's prediction time, Noah. Who do you have winning this game? Give us a score. What happens?
I know I've been picking against the Chiefs. I picked them to win against the Jaguars, picked them to lose against the Cowboys. I'm going to pick them to lose again. Short week, tough offense to prepare for. I got the Eagles 28-17.
I think that Kansas City is going to win this football game, and I think that it's going to be done on. I think the defense is going to get to Michael Vick. I think it's a possibility that he's even knocked out of the game and hurt because this, you get Justin Houston going, you get Tom Bahali after him. As long as you've got a spy on him, which I think will be Derek Johnson, you don't let him kill you with his legs. I think that the Chiefs can get to Vick and they can slow this offense down. And I see the Chiefs offense getting into some rhythm because the Eagles defense has looked subpar. They gave up a career amount of passing yards to Robert Griffin III in week 1. And he hasn't, and Griffin has been struggling, struggled in week 2 there in Green Bay. I think the Kansas City Chiefs win the game. I think it's low scoring. I think it's something like we saw last week. I'm going to say Chiefs 23-16, going on the road, getting the tough win. They're playing with house money in this game, I believe, because it's not a necessity to get to 3-0 to start the season. It would be great. It's not a necessity because you got the Giants coming in the next week to Arrowhead, and the Giants look absolutely atrocious right now.
They do. They turned it over 6 times against Cowboys in week 1. They turned it over a handful of times against the Denver Broncos and just looked lost. So.
Oh, by the way, they're going to win the Super Bowl, though.
Probably.
They look absolutely atrocious, but that means they'll win the Super Bowl. So.
I also want to mention Shady McCoy, LaShawn McCoy, out of the backfield for the Philadelphia Eagles. If you guys haven't had a chance to watch him, you're going to get your fill. He's going to carry the ball. He's going to carry it often. And boy, can this guy make moves. Hurdle, juke, spin, whatever you want, he's got it. We've shut down the running game the first 2 weeks. That's going to be a huge priority this week because we haven't seen a back like this yet.
You talk about stopping the running game. What is the recipe for a Chiefs victory on Thursday night?
Making Michael Vick throw the football. Or run it. We have to focus on Shady McCoy. If we can get Vick to put the ball in Shady McCoy's stomach and pull it out and make him the runner, get him some hits, maybe knock him out of the game or just hurt him a little bit and try to make him throw deep to Riley Cooper, Deshaun Jackson. I think we really have to shut down Shady. That's where their offense starts and ends.
Guys, we'll be with you, of course, next week as always. We got the quick turnaround. Chiefs taking on the Eagles, 2-0. Huge win on Sunday, guys. I know a lot of you were out there at Arrowhead Stadium. Is it safe to say that Arrowhead Stadium is back, or is it too early?
I think it's too early, but I do like what I see. Early returns are going well.
Absolutely. Well, we'll catch you guys next time. Outsiders Podcast. Clint, Switzer, Noah Groniger. Join us on our Facebook. Leave comments. Hateful, snide, we don't care. Positive, leave them all. We love all the interaction. On Twitter, Chiefs Outsiders. Our website, as always, is www.theoutsiderspodcast.weebly.com. We appreciate you guys joining us. Chiefs 2-0, heading to Philadelphia.
Thursday Night Football.